Li Yu traveled to the world of martial arts and became a county sheriff. Unexpectedly, he offended his immediate superior, County Captain Zhang, and the Yamen could no longer survive. Fortunately, with the help of a brother, he came to invite him to join the Qin Family Escort Agency. The world is chaotic, thieves are rising, the court is collapsing, and foreign countries are invading. Li Yu, who is equipped with a critical attack system, steals in troubled times and hesitates in turbulence. Fortunately, the critical attack system is awesome. Faced with the wandering world, without background or talent, Li Yu smiled calmly and said, "What's the point? Li, with just one critical strike, it's already enough. Critical strike system, no one in 10,000. In martial arts mode, all kinds of martial arts can be critical hit, Dugu 9 swords with 10 times critical strike. Sword shadows fill the sky, and the entire scene is filled with my sword intent fluctuations 50 times the critical strike of the 18 dragon subduing palms. Divine dragon descends the world, destroys heaven and earth, who else is there? The star absorbing technique with 100 times critical strike. From 1,000 miles away, vampire invisibly without a shadow. Simply put, this is a fierce criticism story that only relies on critical hits to stir up a vast world. This book is decisive in killing, 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 killing. Kill everything. Seeking collection, seeking recommendation. Keywords of the novel. This hero can critically strike without a pop-up window. This hero can critically strike. Download the complete set of TXT, and read the latest chapter on critical strikes. Chapter 1. Li Yu kicked out of the Yamen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Li Yu kicked out of the Yamen. Bingtanghulu. Fresh Bingtanghulu, a string of 6 coppers. High-quality fabrics, pass by, take a look, take a look. The streets below were filled with people coming and going, and there were bursts of simple shouts, as the salesmen were selling goods and wooing passers-by along the street. At the inn, Li Yu sat by the window, holding a glass of refreshing wine and occasionally taking a sip. His gaze skipped over the street view below, and memories of the past couldn't help but come to mind. His thin lips timely revealed a faint self-deprecation. It was still the scorching summer of 2016. In order to fulfill his dream, he dared not let his parents and friends know. He went alone and bought a hard-seat train ticket to Hengdian Film and Television City in JH City, just to indulge in his childhood dream of being an actor. He once wanted to play the role of a handsome young hero, carrying a 3-foot green sword and a jade pendant hanging from his waist, to punish the bullies who harass women from his mother's family in the bustling city. As a result, I paid the money, and when I asked the crew, there was no quota for the young hero. At most, I would give him a passerby's armor as a background. Standing for 60 yuan a day, an additional 10 yuan takeout. Wearing ancient oversized costumes and applying a patch of dog skin ointment on his face, Li Yuyo remembers the restless mood when the camera was aimed at him. To this day, looking back, there are only 3 words. Young. And now the street view in front of us is very similar to the filming street in Hengdian town. The only difference is that there are no longer charming figures of young couples riding small electric donkeys in the crowd. Sir, the 3 pounds of beef you requested. At the moment of recollection, the greeting of the shop assistant could be heard in my ear, while at the same time, a plate of neatly cut steamed beef, emitting a hot and fishy smell, appeared on the table. Waiter, give it to me. No, give me another pot of bamboo leaf green. Li Yu shouted with full confidence as he looked at the back of the shop assistant. I'm still not used to it. Just thinking about it, as a cultural figure of the 21st century, I suddenly returned to ancient feudal society, which was really difficult. In ancient society, there were ways of living in ancient times, so Li Yu could only follow the customs when in Rome. As a southerner, he has never claimed to be a master, usually referring to me. This habit needs to be changed. Since you want to wander in the martial arts world, you need to be bold and rough. Too gentle, not like. Upon hearing the order, the shop assistant draped a towel and smiled as he turned back, his face lit up with a flower-like expression. "Sir, there are 2 types of bamboo leaf green in our shop. The one from the 10th year is 1 or 2 taels of silver, and the one from the 20th year is 3 or 2 taels of silver." Dong. Before the waiter could finish speaking, Li Yu placed a piece of silver the size of a potato on the table. "Oh, this gentleman, I understand. Such a large amount of silver, it's so generous." The shop assistant accompanied a smiling face, covered the silver block, and cleverly left. The critical hit is successful. The waiter receives 3 mood critical hit points, and the host receives equal critical hit points. Current critical hit point: 10 points. At the right moment, feedback from the critical strike system came to Li Yu's mind. As a time traveler, without any luck or amazing talents, or even a fiancé AE who is married through fingertips, it's not an exaggeration to provide a system. Only 3 critical hit points, it seems we need to use gold nuggets next time. This drunken Fangzhou Inn is one of the top inns on this street, and the shopkeeper must have seen quite a few wealthy people. I haven't received any special effects. Li Yu sighed to himself, picked up a piece of beef with his chopsticks, threw it into his mouth, and began to chew it in big gulps. This rough way of eating made Li Yu uncomfortable. In the past, when eating steak for Western cuisine, it used to be left-handed with a knife and fork, right-handed with a knife and fork. Forget it, let it go. In the blink of an eye, a large plate of beef was half destroyed by Li Yu. The bamboo leaf green brought up by the shop assistant was also half taken down. But Li Yu patted his stomach, which was about 50% full. "I seem to be a bit too good at eating, a roasted chicken, a steamed fish, 3 pots of wine, and 2 pounds of beef, but I'm still not full." Li Yu was surprised by his own appetite. In a previous life, it was just a bag of soybean milk and a deep-fried dough stick. However, as a warrior, one should be so capable of eating, otherwise how can one gain strength? According to the division of the martial arts system of the Dian Court's Military Preparedness Department, Li Yu was a low-level warrior in the middle stage of the physical training realm. He used to be a constable in the county government office, but unfortunately, he was kicked out of the office and became an ordinary person because he offended his superior Zhang county captain. The piece of silver I just found out is 15 or 16 taels, which was knocked by the original owner from a wealthy businessman. Of course, even if he knew the name of the wealthy businessman, Li Yu had no intention of returning it. "Brother Li, please forgive me for coming late." Just as Li Yu was dealing with the remaining beef, the person he was waiting for finally arrived. The newcomer was dressed in rough grass yellow casual clothes, with a burly physique and a short knife pinned to his waist. However, his face looked simple and silly. He sat down across from Li Yu, picked up his chopsticks, picked up the beef, and ate it in large gulps. It was very natural, as if eating beef was natural. "Brother Lu, didn't we have lunch?" Li Yu tentatively asked. "Shame, I met a brother with nothing on the way, and the silver that the escort agency had just issued was touched." Li Yu laughed heartily and had to ask the waiter to add 5 pounds of beef. "The person in front of me, named Lu Yucheng, is an escort from the Qin Family Escort Agency. He is skilled in swordsmanship and is also a good brother of the original owner, a close friend of life and death. The original owner once saved his life, and their relationship is very close. By the way, what about entrusting brothers?" Li Yu asked. It's a small matter." As soon as the chief bodyguard heard that Brother Li came out of the 6 gates, he was on the spot accurate. However, the assessment of martial arts still needs to be done on the spot. Lu Yuqing chuckled while eating. In the Dayan martial arts world, people in the martial arts world are not accustomed to calling it Yamen, but generally refer to it as the 6 gates. Success. "Brother, it's my respect to do it first." Li Yu raised his glass and drank it all in one gulp. The fiery liquor passed through the throat and flowed straight into the bottom of the stomach. He entrusted Lu Yuqing to find connections and enter the escort agency. After all, in the modern way of thinking, Li Yu had no intention of becoming a bandit directly. However, after passing through the Yamen, he saw clearly the various activities of the petty officials in the Yamen who oppressed the good people and extorted them. His former values did not allow him to become that group of people. But if you live, you have to eat. You have to spend money on food, clothing, and everything needs to be made of copper, not to mention that there are 2 girls in the family who are starving for food. There is no way, only Li Yu, who has excellent martial arts skills, can play to this advantage. He once wanted to be a caretaker for a wealthy family, more stable and safe, but the damn critical strike system refused. When selecting Li Yu as the host in the critical strike system, I once made a 3-chapter agreement with him. 1. All mandatory tasks must be completed, and if they cannot be completed, all system rewards will be collected. 2. You cannot engage in any profession that does not seek self-improvement, or just fools around. 3. We must not lose the courage to move forward, we must not lower our noble heads, even if we hit the street, we should start over again. During the 3 chapters of the Constitution, Li Yu even felt that his critical strike system was quite powerful. Unexpectedly, the profession of guarding homes and nursing homes, which is so common, was blacklisted by the critical strike system. In addition to guarding the house and courtyard, Li Yu also tried to become a private instructor, and even planned to become a thug in a nearby casino. The result was self-evident, and all were judged by the critical strike system to be in the ranks of slackers and others, and were banned from work. Finally, Li Yu had to speak to his brothers and ask if the escort agency was short of personnel. The result was really a shortage of people, and the critical strike system actually approved the profession of escort. Not only did it approve, but it also made it a mandatory task. Li Yu put down his glass and his consciousness sank into his mind. Upon seeing it, the taskbar on the system panel displayed the following. Mandatory task. Within 3 days, become a qualified escort of Qin's escort agency and complete the task to reward 15 critical hit points. Not bad, there are 15 critical hit points. This mission is a bit conscientious. Li Yu sighed from the bottom of his heart. According to the past system's urine nature, giving such a simple task 15 critical hit points is really not lacking. However, there is still some way to go before activating the first critical strike mode. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Newcomers from the Escort Agency. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Newcomers from the Escort Agency. Brotherly, when do you plan to go to the escort agency? After being full of food and drink, Lu Yuqing let out a hiccup and asked. Li Yuzhua pondered, starting work early, getting the critical strike point early, and being able to lead the labor silver earlier to subsidize household expenses. He casually said, it's better to choose a day than to hit the day. Can Qin Escort be at the escort agency today? The escort agency is taking a break today, and all the other brothers have gone out for a walk. The chief escort is here, Lu Yuqing nodded. After accounting, the 2 of them went downstairs and left the inn to go to the Qin's escort agency. Along the way, Lu Yuqing had some tips and briefly introduced the Qin escort agency to Li Yu. In Shanye County, the Qin escort agency can only be considered a small escort agency, with the 13th resident escort. Due to the fact that the chief escort, Qin Chimei, is still from a girl's family, the reputation of the escort agency is slightly poor, not as good as the other escort agencies in this county. However, although the size of the escort agency is small, the overall escort leader is quite kind. The agency distributes ICBC on time on the 15th of each month. Going out to escort, if injured, there will be additional healing silver, which can be paid for cultivation. If unfortunate death occurs, the compensation silver will belong to the family of the escort. If the escort has no family members, then it's okay. Li Yugu touched it and, in the words of his past life, the welfare benefits of this escort agency were quite good. The only surprise was that the chief bodyguard was actually a female hero. Nowadays, it is quite rare for my daughter's family to serve as the head of an escort agency. In about a stick of incense, the two arrived at the Qin Family Escort Agency. At the corner of West Street, a small wooden door was closed at the entrance, and a two-wheeled escort cart was parked in the open space ahead. It was actually a very ordinary cart, with a yellow husky horse tied under a tree next to it, grazing on grass with its head down. The horse's tail occasionally hit the fly on its buttocks. Master Lu is back. Opening the small wooden door, an old man in gray clothes greeted the guests. Lin Bo, can the chief bodyguard be inside the house? Asked Lu Yuqing. Here, the head of the family is practicing swordsmanship there, said the old man in gray clothes, nodding his lips in the empty space east of the courtyard. As the old man spoke, Li Yu actually heard the sound of sword blades cutting through the air and breaking the wind. On the empty ground to the east, a woman in red was rapidly performing a sword technique. Her graceful figure, graceful movements, jumping, footwork, twists and turns, exuding a heroic demeanor and occasionally giving a coquettish shout, was quite capable. Brother Li, the chief bodyguard, is practicing swordsmanship. There are no other brothers in the escort agency, so I'm afraid the chief bodyguard will personally assess you. Lu Yuqing led Li Yu to the east of the yard. The two sat on a wooden stake drying rice, but there was no sound to disturb them. It seems that the female lead escort is very diligent. Li Yu carefully watched the other person's movements, and then compared them slightly in his heart. He knew that the other person's kung fu was far superior to his current self, and he couldn't help feeling a little frustrated. The woman who dares to take on the role of an escort agency indeed has two brushes. After about a moment, the woman in red finished practicing her swordsmanship, withdrew her posture, and slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air before turning around and approaching, saying, "Brother Lu, who is this brother?" "Xiaoke Li Yu, I've seen the chief bodyguard before." Li Yu flipped over and jumped off the wooden stake, arched his hand, and introduced himself. At the same time, Li Yu also saw clearly the other party's description. In short, this is a charming young woman, with an age of only 20.9 or at most 30 depending on her appearance, which is exactly the time when she was fat and juicy. The body measures around 1.7 meters, which is considered tall among women. As for the size of the chest, it appears relatively flat due to the clothes wrapped around it, but it is definitely not an airport. It's just that Li Yu can't tell, maybe the other party is wearing inner armor. The woman in red also looked at Li Yu, then waved her hand heartily and said, "What should I call the chief escort? How many years should I be? If you don't mind, just shout Qin Jie." "Qin Jie, good." Li Yu shouted with a smile. Lu Yuqing beside him was taken aback for a moment, then smiled and said, "Qin Jie, this is Li Yu whom I mentioned recently." Well, Qin Chimei also smiled slightly, but quickly restrained. On her delicate face, her expression became serious. Her eyebrows furrowed and she said, "You were introduced by Brother Lu, so I can trust you. It's just that the escort agency is an unusual profession. It's not an exaggeration to say a word about licking blood and begging for food. Therefore, the skill level still needs to be considered. Thank you, Sister Qin, for being honest. I'll save you a lot." Li Yu arched his hand and immediately walked into the open space. Indeed, Qin Chimei is very kind. Her skill in this level is related to the life of the escort. If she doesn't pass the level and casually releases water, she will be a cannon fodder if she goes on the road. Based solely on this, Li Yu had a favorable impression of the woman in the martial arts world in front of him. "If you come from the Six Gates sect, then I will use the 6 Fang Palm of the Six Gates sect to learn a few moves from Brother Li." As she spoke, Qin Chimei threw her long sword back without even looking. The sword crossed the arc and then with a choking sound, accurately inserted into the scabbard hanging on the wooden frame. This precision made Li Yu's eyes skip a beat. "It's easy to say. Li Yu threw his right hand and set aside the simple sword of the Yamen. With one step, he swung his hexagonal palm in a starting position. Lufang palm is a common and inferior palm technique granted free of charge to Yamen officials in various regions of the Dayan court. Martial artists in the court can learn it for free. However, the military preparedness department lacks strict control over such inferior palm techniques, which have long been passed down to the public. Many people in the martial arts world know this palm technique. But there are not many masters either. Qin Family nodded secretly at Li Yu's starting posture, dignified, with a considerable sense of propriety in her attack and defense. She was able to advance and retreat to defend, not just empty-handed. Here we go. Qin Family chuckled and stepped forward. Her footwork is not mysterious, it's just basic footwork. But as he spoke, he took a few steps, and the space seemed to shorten. The figure in red attacked Li Yu 3 feet in front of him, and with one palm, he headed straight towards the opponent's facade. So fast. Li Yu was taken aback, as the opponent's fierce palm had already touched his cheek. He immediately adopted a defensive posture, gave up the idea of attacking, stepped back with his left foot, gave way to half of his position, and used a cross-palm technique with his right hand to execute a block character technique. With a loud bang, coincidentally, they collided head-on with the other person's palm edge. Li Yu felt as if his wrist was broken and his nerves were tingling. Second palm. At the same time as Qin Family reminded, she extended her second palm and patted Li Yu's left shoulder. This palm may seem like a comeback, but it is actually a connection of the first palm, and between transitions, it also contains the power of the first palm. The transition in the blink of an eye may seem natural, but discerning people know that without 3 or 2 years of hard practice, it is definitely impossible to do anything. Li Yu had almost no time to react, only feeling a fair palm pressed down in his field of vision. Pang! Li Yu's dead horse became a living horse doctor, and his right foot suddenly stepped on the ground, using force to move back in an attempt to avoid it. Because it's too late to parry yet. Unfortunately, Qin Family's palm is too close. With a snap, the fair palm landed on Li Yu's chest. In an instant, Qin Family restrained her palm strength and did not vomit, but she frowned slightly and smiled. Not bad, Li's reaction is quite unexpected. However, Li Yu took the opportunity to take a few steps back, relying on years of solid foundation in pile skills, and forcefully stood firm, finally not losing balance and falling to the ground. General Escort, what do you mean? Lu Yuqing, whose heart was pounding with excitement, approached him nervously, but his face already showed anticipation. The chief bodyguard rarely praises others. Take me 2 palms, if you can, don't fall, it's okay, Qin Family smiled, which could be considered as acknowledging Li Yu. Although the martial arts involved only a few breaths, Qin Family is someone who has been wandering in the martial arts world for many years. From Li Yu's reaction, she had already seen enough things. Shame. Li Yu, who had just stood firm, bowed his hand in shame. He was truly convinced that he had lost. Perhaps Lu Yuqing next to her could not be seen, but Li Yu himself was aware that when the last palm landed on her chest, Qin Family immediately withdrew her palm power, otherwise he would have had no chance of standing firm. During the attack, Li Yu was able to unleash and control his strength with ease, but he couldn't do it. When facing a group of government officials in the county government office, Li Yu once thought he was pretty good. Now, only then can we realize that that statement is true. There are people outside of us, and there are heavens outside of us. Congratulations on completing the task, gaining recognition from Qin Family and becoming a qualified escort of Qin's escort agency. Reward 15 critical hit points. Current critical hit point. 25 points. At the right time, Li Yu also received feedback from the critical strike system in his mind. Let's go to the accounting room and sign a contract. Qin Family took her sword and led the way. The Qin's escort agency is a legitimate escort agency that opens an account in the county government office, so if the agency hires an escort, it must sign a contract and complete the filing and reporting process. Li Yu and Lu Yuqing both followed. Finally officially joined. Li Yu also secretly hoped that the real years of the escort agency would come next. I am both anxious and looking forward to it. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The first critical strike mode is activated. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The first critical strike mode is activated. Night, cool autumn. The bright moon shines brightly, and the stars are sparse. In a spacious courtyard in Shanye County, Li Yuqing sat at a stone table in the courtyard, flipping through a notebook under the moonlight because the candles at the grocery store had recently risen by 2 copper coins. The name of the note is Observations of the Escort Agency. It was given to him by Qin Chimei 3 days ago when he joined the Qin Escort Agency, asking him to carefully read it. This notebook records various experiences of the Qin Escort Agency's many years of escort career, covering famous heroes in the martial arts world, escort routes, local customs, and cult figures, as well as records of feng shui time. For example, on auspicious days in the ecliptic, it is suitable for travel, while on inauspicious days in the underworld, one should avoid traveling and even burn incense to pray for peace. On that day, there was a commission for escort services, and even divination was asked. If the divination was not auspicious, the time would be postponed, and even the escort would be refused. De Gua, what are you doing? While Li Yu was staring at the notes, a cute little figure in white collided with him like a lamb and landed on his knee. The small figure in white clothes pressed her hands on Li Yu's knees, vigorously stomping on her thin legs, unable to climb up her brother's thighs. This little figure in white is none other than Li Yu's youngest sister, named Li Qinin. She is just 5 years old and has not yet started. She always pronounces the word big brother as big pot, which is a typical pronunciation error. Li Qinin, who asked you to run out and obstruct big brother's reading? At the right moment, a clear and stern sound came from the kitchen window, breaking the tranquility of the yard. Immediately after, a 13 or 14-year-old girl in green clothes, holding a torch clip, rushed out of the kitchen and was about to pat Li Qinin's little buttocks. Forget it, it doesn't affect me holding her. Li Yu reached out to stop the girl in green from beating, and with one hand, he picked up Li Qinin's delicate little body and hugged her in his arms. Li Qinin looked at her sister gloating, spitting out a small fragrant tongue. Big brother, always doting on her. The girl in green wore a tight melon seed face, her eyebrows furrowed tightly, with 3 big characters written on it, which was not funny. Alright, Xiangning, she's only 5 years old. I promise not to spoil her after she's 6, Li Yu waved his hand and dismissed his older sister, Li Xiangning. Humph. Li Xiangning, a young girl in green, snorted coldly. Thinking that the chicken in the pot was important, she temporarily suppressed her breath and turned back to the kitchen, leaving only a dissatisfied figure behind. These are the only 2 family members left in Li Yu's life. As for the parents who went out to visit in their early years and went missing. It is rumored that the nearby neighbors have been poisoned by mountain bandits, but the specific situation is unknown to Li Yu. After their parents went missing, the 3 siblings, who had no financial means, survived the most difficult period with the meager assistance of their relatives and neighbors. Later, Li Yuren, the eldest brother, gave up his intention of getting fame, gave up the local examination held in the county seat, and went to the Yamen to act as a Kwai. Having read poems and books, he was smart, and his achievements in solving cases were often the first, so he got the consent of the county magistrate and luckily became a constable. Unfortunately, Sheriff Li didn't work long before he offended his superior Zhang County Lieutenant for not understanding the rules of the officialdom and was kicked out of the Yamen. In the eyes of the county magistrate, Li Yu had no background, no status, and no powerful relatives. There was no need for him to have a grudge against Captain Zhang for the sake of such a trivial constable, so he chose to remain silent. That night, the county magistrate received a letter of silver from Captain Zhang. But Li Yu doesn't know about this matter. After dinner, Li Qinin indulged in chicken and ate too much, sleeping the fastest. Sister Li Xiangning is quite busy, doing laundry, washing dishes, and sweeping the floor. She is very sensible and tidy up everything in the house. Although young, he has been in charge for many years. Big brother. After tidying up the household chores, Li Xiangning came to the yard and saw Li Yu playing Lu Feng Zhang. Li Xiangning doesn't understand about kung fu. She just feels that in recent days, her older brother's skills have become faster than before, so fast that she can't see it. "Oh, Xiangning, what's up?" Li Yuting lowered his palm technique and asked in some surprise. This older sister is quite sensible. Everything in the family depends on her, except for silver. Mainly in this ancient world, at her age, she was usually raised in a deep boudoir to do needlework, show her head and face, and there were not many jobs. There was a shortage of job positions, and besides working as a maid in a wealthy family, there were almost no suitable options. Li Xiangning walked slowly into the yard, revealing 3 holes in her left cloth shoe, revealing her fair instep. She whispered, "When I was hanging clothes during the day, I heard Mrs. Lin and her friends say that there were flower pickers in the alley of Tongyang Street. Is that true? Paper cannot contain fire." The story of the flower picker spread so quickly. Li Yu sighed to himself. Now that even his own sister knew about it, he could only nod and say, "It's true. Our escort agency has recently received an anti-thief commission." Li Xiangning's thin melon seed face immediately turned white, and her clear eyes were occupied by fear, unable to speak for a while. She could already understand the story of the flower picker, and there were rumors that many women had never returned after being mistreated. How could she not be afraid of her daughter's family? "Don't be afraid, Xiangning. The footprints of the flower pickers are traceable. Our area is poor and the flower pickers are not interested." Li Yu patted the girl's shoulder lightly and comforted her. Li Yu didn't say this nonsense. Yesterday and the day before yesterday, the escort agency received 4 commissions, none of which were ordinary escort services, but anti-thief commissions, targeting the recent appearance of flower-picking thieves in Shanye County. Based on the experience of Qin Chime, the chief bodyguard, the appearance of flower pickers is usually in wealthy families such as merchants or scholarly families. Their targets are often pure white ladies from wealthy families, ordinary people's poor children, with yellow skin and withered skin. Flower pickers are generally not favored. "Alright, if you're really scared, you guys should hide in the cellar during the day and don't come out. It'll be okay in a few days," said Li Yuan. Nowadays, many escort agencies in Shanye County have received orders to prevent thieves, and the county government has certainly taken preventive measures. The flower pickers either flee, are caught, or are hidden, and the likelihood of committing another crime in the short term is relatively low. Moreover, there are also some chivalrous warriors in the martial arts world chasing after them upon hearing the wind. Rape, humiliation, and plunder have always been taboos in the martial arts world, and are not shameful in the martial arts world. Wen Yan comforted her for a while, and her older sister Li Xiangning's expression gradually warmed up. Watching the lonely figure of the older sister returning to the room, Li Yu felt a bit sad. He could completely feel the fear in the older sister's heart, because he had already received feedback from the critical strike system in his mind, a series of emotions of fear and critical strikes. Critical hit points plus 14, plus 12, plus 11 from Li Xiangning's fear of emotions. It's time to take a look at the critical hit points. Li Yu was somewhat excited and sat at the stone table, exhaling the menu panel of the critical strike system. Critical strike system panel. Host. Li Yu basic critical hit multiple. Double, distance increased by twice critical hit, still requires 500 critical hit points, basic critical strike damage. 1.4, mid-stage of forging state, critical mode. Only one mode can be activated at the same time. 1. Consume 100 critical points to activate the first critical mode, which is blind box mode for extraction. 2. Consume 300 critical points and activate the second critical mode. The extraction mode is blind box mode. Friendly reminder. This mode automatically removes critical strike modes already in use, critical hit trigger type. Multiple types can be blessed at the same time. There is currently no critical strike mode and trigger types cannot be activated. Trial space. Currently no permission, critical strike mission. Currently no tasks. Current critical hit point 135. Being able to accumulate so many critical hit points, I have to thank the arrival of the flower picker. Li Yu was happy. In the past 2 days, he and his brothers from the escort agency went to guard a wealthy family, during which he also gained the fear and critical hit of the daughter of a wealthy family. Of course, my eldest sister has also contributed a lot. Do you want to consume 100 critical points and activate the first critical mode? In the transparent dialog box, the system displays the text. Extract. 100 critical hit points have been deducted. As the system finished displaying the characters, 3 gray brocade box projections appeared out of thin air in front of Li Yu. This scene scared Li Yu to jump up. Fortunately, he looked around and there was no one around, otherwise our secret weapon would have been exposed. For safety reasons, Li Yu turned off the critical strike system and slowly returned to his room before turning it on again. Which one is better to choose? Sitting on the rough bedding bed, Li Yu hesitated as he looked at the 3 gray brocade boxes projected in front of him. Li Yu, who had difficulty choosing, had no choice but to close his eyes and count, letting heaven decide. 10, 9, 8, 7, 3, 2, 1. When Li Yu counted to 1, his right index finger tapped on the gray brocade box in the middle. The 2 brocade boxes next to him dissipated like shattered paper scraps and illusions. Congratulations, the first critical strike mode you have activated is Cultivation mode. The system has completed the character display, and a small red star light inside the gray brocade box flew directly towards Li Yu's chest, penetrating his clothes and entering his body. A burst of electric current filled the air, and Li Yu felt a numbness and soreness all over his body and limbs. At the same time, explanations about the cultivation mode also emerged in my mind. Activate cultivation mode, and each time the host cultivates, they can trigger a critical strike unconditionally. The critical strike effect is equal to the normal effect multiplied by the basic critical strike multiple. For example, if the current cultivation effect of the host is 5 units, then in a cultivation mode, the host will receive a critical strike effect of 5 times 1 is equal to 5. The comprehensive cultivation effect is 5 plus 5 times 1 is equal to 10. Note: the host's own cultivation effect is not affected by the critical strike system effect. This means that my own cultivation effect is a guaranteed salary, and the critical strike effect given by the system is a bonus. Li Yu touched his chin and understood, as if it meant this. That's amazing. 1 day of cultivation is equivalent to 2 days for others. 1 year of cultivation is equivalent to 2 years for others. Of course, the prerequisite is that the basic critical hit multiple is 1. If you increase the basic critical hit multiple, roar, this effect is a bit amazing. Critical strike system, it can be done. Li Yu laughed until his facial muscles stiffened, and then covered his mouth. If it weren't for fear of affecting the sleep of the 2 girls next door, he could open his voice and shout 300 times. Due to being too excited, Li Yu couldn't sleep. He returned to the yard again and started practicing under the moonlight. Of course, under the influence of the critical strike system, the effect of this cultivation has directly doubled. The saying goes, critical hits are satisfying for a while, and critical hits are always satisfying. This is probably the mood of Li Yu at this moment. Not long after, a modern inflation song that was out of place echoed in this ancient courtyard. I want to fly to the sky, go ahead, go herd the sheep, give my beloved sheep a few marshmallows to eat. I want to stand on the sea surface, catch a big moon hanging on the roof, it's so bright. It's so bright. I want to be capricious, so I will be capricious. Who can do anything to me? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The True Lord of Flower Picking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The True Lord of Flower Picking. The next day, in the morning. Perhaps it was the incident of a flower picker, causing too much violence. Walking on the street, Li Yuan felt a sense of trepidation and a sense of panic among the trees and grass. On the street, there are still people coming and going from south to north. But obviously, the proportion of women among pedestrians has significantly declined, with the vast majority being men. In the past, Zhang Wunyang, who used to stand on the street and sell bean curd jelly served with sauce as a snack bully, has changed into a thin man, who looks like a thin monkey, but is quick in hands and feet. She seems to be very skilled at picking bean curd jelly served with sauce. At the meat bun shop next door, where a green handkerchief was still waving yesterday, Miss Jiang, who was coquettish and shouting, disappeared without a trace. Only the old staff hired by the shop were busy. Where's your landlady? Li Yu walked up and bought a bag of meat buns made of butter paper, and casually asked as he handed them copper coins. I'm sick, the old man replied angrily. The boss's wife is away, and all the tasks in the store are his, and the workload has more than doubled. The old man's mood is not good for thieves. Li Yuning understood his feelings and casually reached out to take the meat bun, then turned around and left the shop, heading to Lin Yuanwai's house. Lin Yuanwai, full name Lin Dafu, in the words of Li Yu's previous life, is the local dog rich. Lin Dafu has 3 shops in his family, including a rouge shop, a silk shop, and an unavoidable coffin shop, all of which are inherited through generations of business accumulation. His reputation in a large county like Shanye County is enough to rank in the top 10. His family has 2 beautiful daughters, the eldest daughter is 23 years old and the youngest daughter is 21 years old, both of whom are of marriageable age. But the elderly mother of Lin Yuanwai, Lin Huang, couldn't bear to part with these 2 granddaughters and kept them, intending to personally choose a future son-in-law for them. Originally, there was no problem, but this time in Shanye County, there were notorious flower pickers who committed 2 crimes in a row, ruining 2 blooming girls who were as beautiful as flowers. This has frightened Mr. Lin. His 2 daughters are the jewels of his palm, so there should be no mistakes. If there were any mistakes, Mr. Lin wouldn't dare to imagine. Although there are 3 or 5 guardians at home, they are all aimed at ordinary people who are sneaking around. In other words, they are ordinary people with little real ability. When dealing with ordinary people, they can still intimidate them with wooden stakes, which has a slight deterrent effect. But for the flower picker, this kind of martial arts figure is just like a decoration, useless. Those who can deal with martial arts figures must also be martial arts figures. So, Lin Yuanwai went to 3 escort agencies and personally issued 3 anti-thief orders, one of which was the Qin Family Escort Agency. Li Yu is one of the 3 bodyguards dispatched by the Qin Escort Agency to Lin Yuan's home. Along the way, while walking and eating, I soon arrived at the mansion outside of Lin Yuan. It is not an exaggeration to say that the Lin mansion is heavily guarded nowadays. There were only 4 guards standing in front of the mansion, each young and strong, seemingly newly hired. They each carried a gong and a wooden stick. Stop, who are you? Seeing Li Yu eating meat buns while holding his head, one of the men walked up to the mansion and shouted. Escort Li from Qin's escort agency, Mr. Lin knows me. Li Yuliang lit up his sleeve, which had the embroidered words of Qin's escort agency on it. He wears this strong suit for free, which is the work uniform of the Qin escort agency. In addition to the embroidery of the escort agency on the cuffs, there is also a Qin character on the back. It's Captain Li, please hurry inside. The man guarding the courtyard quickly moved away. Entering the inner courtyard, the atmosphere suddenly changed. The flat in the middle of the inner courtyard, centered around Lin Yuanwei, was surrounded by 7 or 8 people, seemingly arguing about something. Li Yu quickly stepped forward and recognized 2 companions from the escort agency, Yu Jiu and Tong'an, among them. As for the rest of the people, judging from their clothing, they belonged to the Luoji Escort Agency and the Changfeng Escort Agency respectively. These 2 escort agencies are truly prestigious in Shanye County, especially the Changfeng Escort Agency, which is backed by the well-known Changfeng sect with a radius of hundreds of miles. In the crowd, the 3 escorts from Changfeng Escort Agency clearly had a sense of superiority over their peers on their faces. For the arrival of Li Yu, except for Yu Jiu and Tong'an who greeted him, the other escorts almost swept by without much pause. Some of them were kind-hearted and nodded at him. Everyone is a wanderer in the martial arts world. Although it is a competitive relationship in Shanye County, our relationship with each other is not so bad that we have to talk to each other when we meet, and it is still on the surface-friendly level. The argument continued, and Li Yu listened for a few words beside him. Then, approaching 2 positions, he saw a silver note on the stone table with a sentence written on it. I heard that Lin is a beautiful woman with outstanding career prospects. Tonight at midnight, I will be fortunate enough to step on the moon. Wang Suyada will not make me return in vain. Dear flower picker, your highness. Upon seeing the words above, Li Yu was stunned. Li Yuen thought that this flower picker was sneaking around, but he didn't expect it to be so openly, and even gave advance notice. If translated, it means, the old man has washed your 2 daughters white and prepared them. At midnight, I will come on time, grass, a plant. Crazy, domineering, and arrogant. This is Li Yu's first feeling. When did this note appear? Where did it appear? The bodyguards beside him were busy arguing and cursing, but Li Yu asked with a sharp eye. At this question, the group of bodyguards suddenly became confused. A bodyguard carefully examined Li Yu's appearance and recognized him as the former police officer of the Yamen, with outstanding ability to solve cases. The person casually said, well, I need to ask Mr. Lin. Under the gaze of everyone, Lin looked bitter outside and said, it was a maid who picked it up on the girl's dressing table this morning while serving water. The implied meaning was that the time was unknown. He didn't say whether he was the eldest or youngest daughter, he was vague, but everyone understood that no one asked in detail because there was no difference. The note was left on the dressing table, indicating that the flower picker had visited the room and was already familiar with the layout of the Lin mansion's room. The thieves have already stepped on the spot in advance. And it was under the supervision of an escort who stepped on it. This indicates that the flower picker's lightness skills are much higher than those of all the bodyguards present. The escorts felt ashamed and embarrassed in their hearts. If the flower picker had taken action last night, this entrusted task would have been ruined. What should we do now? Mr. Lin was about to cry. It was only a few hours away from tonight, and time was quite tight. Don't worry, Mr. Lin. I'll go back to the escort agency and report this matter to the chief escort. The middle-aged escort from Changfeng Escort Agency spoke and turned around before leaving, extremely straightforward. Compared to Qin's escort agency and Luoji Escort Agency, Changfeng Escort Agency is clearly under more pressure. With the relationship between Changfeng Escort Agency and Changfeng sect, once the reputation of the agency is damaged, the nearby reputation of Changfeng sect will inevitably be affected. At this point, it's not just a matter of money anymore, it's a matter of the face of the escort agency and the face of the sect. In the martial arts world, face is very important, sometimes even surpassing one's own life. Lin Yuanwei is relieved. Our Luoji Escort Agency will definitely give it our all, said a bearded escort from Luoji Escort Agency. At such times, one cannot be looked down upon, let alone compared. Brother Liang, please come back to the main altar of the escort agency and make sure to send someone before midnight tonight. The long-bearded escort instructed a young escort next to him. Their Luoji Escort Agency is a branch in Shanye County, not the headquarters. The young bodyguard arched his hand and turned to leave. Lin Yuanwei, rest assured that our Qin Escort Agency will definitely contribute, Tongnan arched his hand. As the elder of the Qin Escort Agency here, his words also represent the attitude of the Qin Escort Agency towards this matter. Yu Jiuhui understood and turned around to leave. Due to his seniority in the escort agency, Li Yu did not speak. He is a newcomer to the agency and has not been in the agency for more than 5 days. It is not wise to speak at this time. However, Li Yu's mind was not focused on this at this moment. He received a critical strike system loading task in his mind. Non-mandatory task. Kill the flower picker and reward a mysterious gift. Fortunately, it's not a mandatory task, otherwise I would be G. Li Yu breathed a sigh of relief in his heart and didn't take the mysterious gift given by the system seriously. With his current skills, if he encounters a flower picker, he will be instantly killed with just one face. Suddenly, Li Yu's face changed one after another, and he stood firm here. What would he do if he encountered a flower picker at night? Digging trenches, I'm in big trouble. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Tripartite Visitors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Tripartite Visitors. After about 2 hours of panic and fear, Li Yu finally saw the chief escort Qin Chimei and his companion Yujiu, who had returned to report, stepping into the gate of the Lin mansion. Qin Chimei was dressed in a strong red outfit, with a tall and straight figure. She walked towards her, appearing extremely capable. Her delicate face and phoenix eyes exuded a sense of power, and her whole body naturally emitted a faint indifference. The remaining escorts from other escort agencies in the mansion saw Qin Chimei stepping into the hall. 3 or 4 of them who had met before stood up from their seats, bowed and showed enough respect. Qin Chimei is not too high either, bowing her hand in return. Traveling in the martial arts world, especially in the escort agency industry, it is particularly important to maintain good relationships. As for seeing the truth on hand, it is actually a last resort. After all, everyone has only one life. Qin General Escort, you have finally arrived. The bitter master Lin Dafu quickly stepped forward and handed Qin Chimei the white note of the flower-picking true lord. Nvexia, this is the note left by the flower-picking thief who killed him last night. You have to make the decision for the little old man. Qin Chimei glanced slightly and realized that the content on the paper had already been described by Yu Jiu at the escort agency. Don't panic outside. Qin Chimei comforted her and said beautifully, this trip is connected by the Luoji Escort Agency, Changfeng Escort Agency, and Cheating Escort Agency. I expect that even if this flower picker has great skills, he will teach him to reap the consequences tonight. I haven't seen you for many years. Miss Qin's words are as pleasing as ever. A cheerful long smile suddenly came from outside the hall, and the echo was still lingering. The figure of that person had already appeared inside the hall. Li Yu widened his eyes and was extremely surprised. I used to only see such scenes in martial arts TV dramas, but I didn't expect to witness them with my own eyes today. Those who come, before anyone arrives, the sound arrives first. The sound is still lingering, and the person has arrived. Even Li Yu did not hear any footsteps approaching. This achievement in lightness skills made him envious in his heart. After a brief shock, Li Yu began to observe carefully from the side. This person is about 27 or 8 years old, over 6 feet long, with long hair, wrapped in a green rope, and holding a strange snake-shaped blade in his right hand. Strangely, the tip of the blade is actually a mink's head, and the mink's mouth extends a blue sword blade that grows 1 finger at a time, as if it has been poisoned. Who am I? It turns out to be you, a blue-faced mink. Unlike other escorts, Qin Chimei's expression was relaxed, and she didn't seem surprised by the lightness skills of the newcomer just now. Where, outside the Qingyang Pass in the past, I have to thank Miss Qin for the grace of a sword." As she spoke, Qin Niandiao restrained her arrogance and bowed to Qin Chimei in public. Qin Chimei was slightly indifferent and said, "Do you recognize this handwriting?" As she spoke, Qin Chimei spread out the note in her palm. Although it had been folded by Lin Yuanwei, it now stretched out in an extremely neat manner, resembling a new piece of paper. Even the folded marks became faint, and if you don't look closely, you may not be able to see it. I haven't seen her for years, but this woman's kung fu has become even better. Yang Feng, a blue-faced mink, looked down at the paper and was shocked before carefully identifying the handwriting on it. The true king of flower picking. Yang Feng, a blue-faced mink, had a sudden expression in his eyes. "Do you recognize it?" Qin Chimei frowned. "True lord of flower picking, real name Lu Yang." Yang Feng nodded and frowned. "This person is not simple. It is rumored that around the 25th year of the Qingli reign, there was a flower-picking sect in Shizhou. The disciples under the sect were all proficient in male and female picking and supplementing, and after picking and supplementing, they could increase their internal power. Each time a woman was picked and replenished, her internal power gained was equivalent to 1 year of hard cultivation. In the 25th year of the Qingli reign, before the original owner was born, Li Yu was completely unaware. The current reign title of the Dian court is Yongda. It is currently the 18th year of Yongda, and Emperor Yongda is in his prime. Li Yuzai listens carefully. Listening to such rumors in the martial arts world can also accumulate some experience in the martial arts world. Yang Feng sighed and said, "Back then, the flower-picking sect ravaged the 12 counties of Shizhou. In just 1 month, 5,000 women suffered from human relations, shocking the entire Central Plains. Later, the sect leader Yun Gubwa was killed by the sound of Lan Jun's sword and Luo Jiansheng. Most of the disciples in the sect were killed by various chivalrous men, but ultimately, there were fish caught. This flower-picking true lord is one of them." Yang Feng continued to talk confidently. In the past, besides the flower-picking sage Yun Gubwa, there were 4 disciples of the flower-picking sect. They were the eldest disciple, the flower-picking true lord Lu Yang, the second disciple, the flower-picking fox Hua Ping, the third disciple, the flower-picking Bi Lianpeng, and the fourth disciple, the flower-picking carving Lu Yi. Now that the flower-picking true lord has returned to the martial arts world, it seems that the rumor of the flower-picking sect being destroyed back then is not entirely true. At this moment, a young escort from the Luoji Escort Agency next to Yang Feng interjected, "Yang Hufa, if we follow what you said, then the true lord of Kaihua who managed to escape back then has at least several decades of internal strength. For decades, with internal strength in his body, he can be regarded as a master in the entire Great Flame Dynasty. You should know that martial artists need to accumulate internal strength and step into the inner cultivation realm. However, for most people, it takes more than a year to enter the physical training realm. As for the higher level internal training realm, it takes at least 3 to 5 years to reach the threshold. Not bad. If Lu Yang had a woman secretly picking and mending, his kung fu today would be far better than in the past." Yang Feng, the blue-faced Yao, nodded and his face became even more solemn. Qin Chimei couldn't help but remain silent upon hearing this. No wonder the other party dares to be so reckless and leave a note. It turns out they are fearless. The atmosphere in the entire hall was immediately suppressed. At this moment, at the entrance of the Lin mansion, a loud announcement from the gatekeeper came. "Changfeng sect, the altar master Lan Yujun has arrived." Li Yu followed everyone out of the hall and greeted them in the corridor. More than one person was sent by Changfeng. There were 4 people in total. The man led by him, with a tall physique, over 7 feet tall, dressed in a deep blue robe, with a fan pinned to his waist, a calm expression on his face, and a reserved and refined gaze in his eyes. The other 3 seemed to be quite outstanding disciples of the sect, 2 men and 1 woman, with a distinct mental outlook from the other escorts. This was the first time Li Yu had seen the characters of the martial arts gangs in this world with his own eyes. Upon closer inspection, there were two faint blue wind scroll textures on their cuffs, which seemed to be the symbol of the Changfeng sect. The man led by Lan Yujun walked into the corridor and bowed, saying, "Qin General Escort, Yang Hufa is safe and sound. You are all polite." Qin Chimei and the blue-faced mink Yang Feng bowed in return. As for ordinary bodyguards like Li Yu, they also followed suit with simple arches. This is a prominent figure in the martial arts world, Li Yu sighed in secret, feeling quite imposing. Led by Lin Yuanwei, everyone entered the hall and took their seats according to their seniority. Li Yu's position was placed at the table behind Qin Chimei, serving as a bystander, as did the other bodyguards. In their capacity, they really can't get in touch. The rules of the martial arts world are based on seniority and qualifications. When it comes to intelligence, it's important to move back. On the side, Li Yu observed from the rear and had a conversation during the banquet, with Lan Yujun, the leader of the Changfeng sect, as the center. Next was Qin Chimei, the head of their own bodyguard, and the third was Yang Feng, the blue-faced mink from the Luoji Escort Agency. It seems that as soon as they get to their positions, they have already been familiar with their own positions, and they are all old-timers in the Jianghu. After discussing about 2 cups of tea, Li Yu summarized on the side. 1. Hide the 2 daughters outside of Lin and do not stay overnight in their usual rooms. 2. 3 parties guarded the 4 locations of the Lin mansion, including the roof, the surrounding walls of the courtyard, 2 bedrooms, and the 4 key entrances and exits of the corridor. Since there is no objection between the 2, let's proceed with this plan, said Lan Yujun, as the conclusion of the conversation was finalized. Subsequently, the 3 parties took action and headed to their respective guard positions. Li Yu followed Qin Chimei's instructions and was arranged at the entrance and exit of a corridor near a boudoir, with a courtyard garden in front, a corridor on the side, and the backyard of the Lin mansion in the back. Take this, remember to protect yourself. Before leaving, Qin Chimei suddenly took out a black rectangular iron box and handed it to Li Yu. Li Yu was surprised. The black rectangular box was crafted with great precision, only the size of a regular mouse, and the carved texture on it was also exquisite and beautiful. This is a hidden weapon. The chief bodyguard actually gave himself a pair of hidden weapons, and Li Yu was somewhat flattered. This was because of my low martial arts skills, so I equipped myself with a hidden weapon to protect myself. Can it be used? Qin Chimei showed a questioning look. Seeing the person, aim at it, press here. Seeing Li Yu's dazed expression, Qin Chimei took the hidden weapon box and decided to come to the scene for teaching. Remember to join the collection and vote for recommendations. I will strive to blend Jin Yong's martial arts style with modern martial arts fantasy. I think the essence of Jin Yong's martial arts style has some limitations of the times, and some have exceeded them. However, he did not explore it because it was not necessary in that martial arts era. However, the spirit of chivalry is already a part of human spirit, which will not be lost due to the flow of the times. It will only evolve with the times. This is also the charm of martial arts fantasy. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Arrival of the True King of Flower Picking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The arrival of the true king of flower picking. The lanterns in the corridor emit a bright red light towards all sides. Under the on-site guidance of Qin Chimei, Li Yu quickly understood the use of the hidden weapon in his hand. This is not Qin Chimei's superb on-site teaching, nor is it Li Yu's natural understanding of the use of hidden weapons, but the craftsman who crafted this hidden weapon is skilled. The hidden weapon in Li Yu's hand is easy to operate, even simpler than his previous pistol, with only one switch. The pistol still needs to be safe, and the black hidden weapon box in his hand can be fired immediately with just a flick of the button. After teaching the use of hidden weapons, Qin Chimei left. Li Yusho stood still and looked around, roughly determining the direction of the surroundings and the location where he could hide. The pillars in the corridor seemed to work. Behind the ornamental tree, the leaves are dense and can be fully appreciated. At the corner of the corridor, it's still possible. The stone pavilion 3 meters ahead is still accessible. I can't believe there are so many places to hide. For a moment, Li Yu was unsure which position to choose. However, there was still a long time before the Ion, and Li Yu was not idle. He first thought about critically striking the system. From the recent situation of obtaining critical hit points, in addition to completing tasks to obtain critical hit points, some things can also be inferred slightly. For example, in front of a person, if the other person's mood fluctuates or fluctuates significantly, the critical hit system will determine that they have obtained critical hit points. This can be understood as pretending well, having a promising future, at least the system is optimistic. However, the critical hit points obtained from the older sister Li Xiangning were caused by her fear, and she only played a role in providing commentary and comfort, not in the forced series. Why does the system determine that she has obtained critical hit points? This. Li Yu cannot draw a direct conclusion, he can only make a vague judgment whether he is involved in it or because of his blood-sibling relationship. Unable to figure it out, Li Yu decided to let go for a while and gradually night fell. Lanterns were lit everywhere in the Lin mansion. The lighting level is good, and I can see clearly the way to the toilet. Li Yu was holding a hidden weapon box in his hand. Suddenly, his mind flashed and he had a slight deviation. If he were to use the hidden weapon box to scare others, would he get a critical hit point? Suddenly, a young patrol guard, carrying a gong, walked from a distance. With a smile on his lips, Li Yu had an idea to verify and quietly hid behind the pillar, ready to move. After a moment, the sound of footsteps approached. Li Yu moved, his figure swayed, deliberately stomping on the stone slab twice, creating a sound. Then, his figure swept over the stone bench and fell behind the other person. The hidden weapon box in his hand pressed against the middle of the young guard's waist, and the young guard felt as if he had been hit by an acupoint, like a stone carving, followed closely by water droplets dripping onto the ground from his crotch, making it wet. A faint smell of urine filled the air. Li Yu is speechless. With just this little courage, I feel embarrassed to come and serve as a guard, but soon it became clear that the other party's courage may not necessarily be so small, but rather the current timing is too special. A tripartite escort agency, with handles from all over, the other party can still quietly appear. What's the imagination of an ordinary guard? Stepping forward, Li Yu stepped a little and climbed out of the corridor, hiding behind the ornamental tree. Li Yu quickly learned what the other party was thinking, and the critical strike system gave timely feedback. The host was mistaken for a flower-picking thief and successfully created fear. The critical strike point of the fear from the guard Luo Xiaowu was +19 +15 +14. The tail number is still jumping. Li Yu is broken, this operation is simply amazing. After about a dozen or so breaths, Luo Xiaowu in the hallway regained his senses, shouted loudly, and ran away. The gong in his hand sounded loudly. The entire Lin mansion was immediately alarmed. Did you see the flower picker? Escort Liang from Luoji Escort Agency was the first to catch Luo Xiaowu due to his location. Quickly, the others also rushed over. Li Yu followed the footsteps of the crowd with a guilty heart and arrived at the scene calmly. With more people, one's courage has also increased. Luo Xiaowu trembled and recounted his previous encounter, but everyone who heard the news showed a solemn expression. According to Luo Xiaowu's description, there is a high possibility that the mysterious person who suddenly appears is the flower picker Lu Yang. Except for Li Yu, who created the truth, he was immersed in the waves of surprise. Fear critical hit points from Escort Yujio, +8 +6 +2. Fear critical hit point from Escort Liang Jun, +10 +7 +6. Exciting critical hit points from Li Huayan of the Changfeng sect, +13 +8 +7. In the crowd, more than 10 people collectively sent warmth, and this happiness came too suddenly. Li Yu glanced at the menu bar of the system in his mind, and the critical hit point of this wave of income reached 150 points, with the tail still jumping. A few days ago, Li Yu was struggling to earn critical hit points, but now he has finally found a new way. Apart from pretending to be in front of others and creating panic, it is also possible. Of course, this requires timing. What's going on? A stern voice suddenly sounded, and it was Lan Yujun, the leader of the Changfeng sect, who was startled and rushed over. Li Huayan, a male disciple of the Changfeng sect, approached and briefly described the incident, while the others instinctively looked at Lan Yujun. Don't be afraid, little brother. No one entered the Lin mansion just now, don't scare yourself. Surprisingly, Lan Yujun reached out and patted the courtyard guard Luo Xiaowu, comforting him. This statement made Luo Xiaowu doubt himself. Did he scare himself just now? Obviously not, that's what Luo Xiaowu said in his heart. But this is equivalent to questioning the expert of the Changfeng sect in front of him. As an ordinary person, Luo Xiaowu lacks the courage to argue. Alright, everyone return to their original positions. Following Lan Yujun's words, everyone quickly left and took their respective positions. Li Yu returned to his original position without any danger, but a layer of cold sweat had already appeared behind him. Just now, Lan Yujun listened to the description of his disciple and looked at the position in the corridor. At that moment, Li Yu's heart was really in his throat. If the other party asks who is guarding the position, it will be difficult for them to explain. Fortunately, Lan Yujun judged the wrong direction. Returning to his station position, Li Yu's consciousness sank into his mind and he flipped through the critical strike panel. The critical strike point reached an unprecedented 220, and with an additional 80 points, he could activate the second critical strike mode. I really have some expectations when I think about it. But Li Yu didn't dare to play the trick just now. If you are judged to be an accomplice of a flower picker, then you are really committing suicide. Amidst the stern vigilance of the crowd, time quietly passed, and the bright moon climbed over the top of the tree and rose to the mid-sky, approaching the hour of midnight. At this moment, on a hillside less than 500 meters away from Lin Mansion, a middle-aged figure in a grey robe suddenly appeared ghostly. He held a emerald-green flute in his hand, with a tuft of snow-white long hair hanging on the left side of his forehead, adding a touch of the vicissitudes of time to his handsome face. The middle-aged man in the robe looked up at the moon in the sky. It was a full moon, and the timing was just right. This is the best time to unleash the Qin secret classic. The moonlight in the moonlight is the most essence during the full moon, which can stimulate the effects of secret techniques to the extreme. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Like a silhouette, the figure in grey clothes moved forward rapidly, as if their feet had not touched the ground, taking only a few feet in one step. If anyone sees this scene, they will be surprised. The lightness skill of flying on the grass has reached the level of perfection. Taking a dozen or so tight breaths, the figure of the middle-aged man in the brocade robe arrived at the back of the Lin mansion. Pushi, pushi. Two cold flashes flashed by. The two guards guarding the back only had time to widen their eyes, and blood had already seeped out of their throats. They covered their throats and quietly fell to the ground, with bright red blood oozing from between their fingers. The two falling gongs, which had not yet touched the ground, were caught by a pair of fair palms. Pang! On the roof, the tiles shattered and the sound of footsteps exploded. Under the moonlight, a deep blue figure rushed towards him, and at the same time, the white fan in his hand suddenly swung out. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Yin Yang Strength. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Yin Yang Strength. The azure figure flying down from the rooftop was none other than the leader of the Changfeng sect, Lan Yujun. The white fan in his hand swung out, and in the transparent air, it suddenly shook, producing a low-pitched sound. This is the sound of breaking through the air produced by the internal force detached from the body. This kind of internal strength is invisible, but its power is astonishing. Only in the initial moment, it causes air turbulence, which can be considered as a slight manifestation. The middle-aged man in a gray robe frowned and lightly stepped on the ground with his feet. His figure drifted back a few meters, and a copper gong in his hand was thrown casually. In fact, in the moment he released it, he exerted powerful internal strength. Buzz. The gong, mixed with a deep sound of breaking through the sky, shot fiercely towards Blue Jade June, and the surface of the gong reflected moonlight. However, halfway through the flight, the gong collided with a force from Lan Yujun's body in mid-air. This collision immediately ignited the powerful internal energy contained in the gong. Pang! Two internal forces collided, like a detonator exploding, causing the entire space to suddenly shake. The gong exploded into fragments in mid-air, shooting fiercely from all directions, only to hear a series of popping sounds. The shattered fragments of the gong were deeply embedded in the walls, trees, and ground they hit. The strength is astonishing. And just as the moonlight reflected on the surface of the gong affected Lan Yujun's line of sight, the middle-aged man in a gray robe had already thrown the second copper gong in his hand. Scream! The air was filled with the sound of frogs piercing through the air. The speed of this second gong is so fast that it is even faster than the first gong. Naturally, the inner strength carried by the gong is far superior to that of the first gong. Danger! Although Lan Yujun's vision was affected, his ability to distinguish between sound and position was not poor. The sound of the gong breaking through the air made him feel that his life was threatened. Click! With all his might, the tree trunk beneath his feet snapped in response, and his figure had already flown out. In the moment it flew out again, a gong rushed towards it. With a loud bang, the entire crown of the courtyard tree that Lan Yujun had just stopped at was shattered by the explosion, with leaves shooting everywhere and broken branches flying horizontally, leaving only a half-bare trunk on the ground. The middle-aged man in a gray robe and brocade robe made two moves, and the commotion had already shocked the entire Lin mansion. However, the middle-aged man in the gray-robed brocade robe seemed indifferent. His gaze was fixed on Lan Yujun, who was quite disheveled on the crossbeam, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Do people from the Changfeng sect want to meddle in this business? Are you Lu Yang, the true ruler of flower picking? Lan Yujun frowned tightly and was mentally alert. After two encounters, he was not considered a failure, but he was at a disadvantage, which was nothing but superficial. In the sect, he has already consulted the elders and knows the number one figure, Lu Yang, the true flower-picking lord. He came this time not only to stand up for the Qin Family Escort Agency, which has a deep abyss with the sect, but also to have the intention of competing with Kaihua Xinjuan. In terms of age and seniority, he is only 30.2 years old, which is clearly a younger generation compared to Xinjuan Kaihua. I thought that even if one's martial arts were high, they wouldn't be much better than those who pick flowers. The recent confrontation, Lan Yujun already understood that he had entrusted it too much. This true flower picker is not like an ordinary flower picker in the martial arts world. During the conversation between the two, people guarding other positions in the Lin mansion also rushed over upon hearing the news. Among them, Qin Chimei flew onto the roof and landed on the left side of Lan Yujun. The long sword in her hand was already unsheathed, and the blue-faced Jiao Yangfeng, using his lightness skills, also climbed onto the roof and landed on the right side of Lan Yujun. The snake-shaped weapon in his hand waited for the opportunity to move. The three of them stood in a position that vaguely blocked the path of Lu Yang, the true flower-picking lord. Li Yu didn't dare to go up to the roof and stayed by the side of the ornamental tree. The recent movement made him deeply understand the strength of the flower-picking true lord, which was truly terrifying. It's better to persevere until you have enough strength. At such times, it's not yet his turn to be a minor figure to show off his heroism. The other bodyguards also understand the gap and stand on the periphery. As for the guards of Lin Mansion, they have all gone into hiding. The three disciples of the Changfeng sect, on the other hand, were stationed in the rooftop area behind Lan Yujun, plundering the formation for their martial uncle. Faced with such a situation, if it were an ordinary flower picker, one might have already developed a sense of timidity and retreat. However, Lu Yang, the true flower-picking ruler, looked relaxed and said calmly, "I can't believe it, I can't believe it." A small gathering in a plan led to the collaboration of the Changfeng sect, Qin's escort agency, and Luoji escort agency. I really underestimated the Lin family's love for their daughter. I can't believe that there are actually several skilled players lurking in the small Shanya county. Anyway, since you want to harm Lu's good deeds, let me try the yin and yang gong that I am about to break through recently. Let's see if you can stop it. Lu Yang, the true flower-picking ruler, smiled with evil charm. He put away the green flute in his hand, and with a movement of his right sleeve robe, he held a strange silver weapon in his hand. It was the former head of the flower-picking sect, the famous unique weapon, Silver Bone Blossom. Silver Bone Blossom, resembling a pure silver rose in appearance, but above the flower, there is also a mysterious mechanism that can be used as a hidden weapon or as a weapon to assassinate. The hollow tube in the middle of the flower can also release an invisible and colorless enchanting potion. Lan Yujun and Qin Chimei were surprised when they heard this. Yin Yang Gong is a rare internal skill that has been lost in the past. Practitioners can cultivate the internal power of yin and yang, which can then spread throughout their body. Two opposing forces, intersecting inside and outside, are like two layers of internal strength protection. Even if one is attacked by external strong internal forces, they can turn danger into safety. In fact, they are an excellent internal skill secret. Humph, what a arrogant tone. Let me teach you your yin and yang skills. Amidst a cold snort, Qin Chimei stepped on her left foot, her body as light as a swallow, and she snatched out 3 zhang in the air. She handed out her long sword in her hand and directly took the opponent's throat. This move is the ruthless move from her family's legendary masterpiece, the 10-7 swords of the Qin family, soaring into the air. This move, with attacks but no defenses, advances but no retreats, is the most powerful sword move in the 10-7 swords of the Qin family. Lu Yang on the ground looked slightly cold and didn't dare to raise him. He doesn't know Qin Chimei, but he has heard of 10-7 swords of the Qin family before. Are you a descendant of Qin Wanjian? As Lu Yang, the true flower-picking lord, inquired, he handed out the silver bone in his hand and lightly touched the opponent's sword tip, only feeling a tremor in his wrist and a strong internal force emanating from the sword. However, although this internal force is not weak, it is weakened when it collides with the yin and yang forces in his body, and then disappears without a trace. The Qin family's 17 swords seem to be nothing more than that. Lu Yang, the true flower-picking lord, smiled and said, his footwork changed, he either dodged or dodged, and there was no attack for a while, only maneuvering with Qin Chimei. But Qin Chimei was a bit anxious. Despite dozens of moves, she didn't actually push the other person down. Following closely, the situation between the two changed, and Lu Yang in the field suddenly began to attack. The silver bone in his hand surged in attack. In the middle of the sky, there are all the shadows of flowers. In a row of 3 moves, it actually forced Qin Chimei to retreat. After blocking the opponent's long sword in the 4th move, pass it along and take the opponent's chest directly. Qin Chimei quickly defended with a horizontal sword and used her internal strength to resist. Gong. The silver flower of the silver bone blossom was imprinted on the long sword, and the power of yin and yang was emitted, transmitted through the blade to Qin Chimei. Pushing and kicking a series of footprints were left on the ground, and Qin Chimei took a dozen or so steps back in a row before finally taking off her opponent's strength. However, her pale face was clearly uncomfortable. Brother Lan, blue-faced Jiao, let's go together. This thief's yin and yang strength is not yet unstoppable. Qin Chimei breathed a sigh and shouted to her companions. She didn't notice that Liu, who was watching the battle behind the ornamental tree, was already stunned. The recent confrontation made him feel weak. It's too weak. Before this, he thought that the chief bodyguard Qin Family could be his support, but now it seems that it's not that easy. The water in this world is a bit too deep. A true flower-picking lord, yet possessing such strength. What about the real evil in the martial arts world? What about the demons in the demon cult who kill without blinking their eyes? Too scary, too scary. Li Yu was afraid to return, but the situation on the field did not stop. At the call of Qin Family, Lan Yujun and the blue-faced mink Yang Feng agreed with emotion. Okay. Kill this thief and eliminate harm for the people. Wow. Wow. Blue Jade Jun and blue-faced Jiao Yang Feng on the roof joined forces to fly down the roof and join the battle. If you hit a bad person, you should rush forward and follow the rules of the martial arts world. Li Yu secretly cheered in his heart. Remember to collect and vote for recommendations, even monthly tickets. Oh, end of this chapter. Chapter 8. Taboos of Yin Yang Gong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Taboos of Yin Yang Gong Who. At the moment when Lan Yujun and the blue-faced mink Yang Feng landed, they stepped on their attacking steps, one left and one right, and approached, teaming up to charge towards the true flower-picking Lord Lu Yang. Who? The white shadow swept past from the air, carrying a strong wind like a flywheel, spinning and howling, sweeping towards Lu Yang's neck. That white shadow is not a hidden weapon, but a weapon in Lan Yujun's hand, a refined steel white feather fan. What he is using is one of the three major martial arts of the Changfeng sect, the Jifan technique, which can perform both short and long attacks. According to the evaluation of the Military Preparedness Department of the Dian Court, the power of this Il-Fan technique has reached the threshold of top-grade martial arts in the Xuanjia level. Only members at or above the level of Vice-Altar Master can practice as disciples of the Changfeng sect. At the age of 26, Lan Yujun established a miraculous skill for the Changfeng sect and was promoted to the position of Qingyuan Altar Master. At the same time, he was able to pass on the skill of the Sick Fan technique to the sect elders. After years of cultivation, with constant cold and heat, the power has reached the 6th level as recorded in the Sick Fan technique, in the realm of following the wind. This move has no hidden flaws. Lu Yang had only fought him twice just now, knowing that the opponent's internal strength was not weak. At this moment, he dared not hold on too much, and Silver Bone Blossom used the Guardian technique to sweep across the block. With a loud bang, the white feather fan was knocked back and flew back. Lan Yujun reached out and grabbed the opponent, who had already entered within one zhang. He immediately launched a short attack move, either blocking, hugging, or chopping. One move at a time, step-by-step pressing. On the other hand, Yang Feng, a blue-faced mink, quickly approached and was approaching Lu Yang in a blink of an eye. The short pestle in his hand, a blue-patterned mink with fierce moves, attacked the opponent's vital points with every move. Lu Yang, the true flower-picking lord, no longer had a fresh expression on his face, but instead focused on defense and occasionally used moves to push back one of the two. But he was a well-known figure from the past, with rich combat experience and a foundation of yin and yang strength and internal power. After a long struggle with the other party, the situation gradually fell into a disadvantage. In fact, although Yang Feng, the blue-faced mink, is slightly weaker than Qin Family, the lightness skills he cultivates come from a stranger in the martial arts world. Although he has no name, he is extremely suitable for fighting and does not consume much internal energy. With this unnamed lightness skill, Yang Feng gained the nickname of the blue-faced mink in the martial arts world, which means he is as fast as an electric light like an animal like the blue-faced mink. He teamed up with Lan Yujun, and their overall strength has slightly surpassed that of Lu Yang, the true flower-picking lord. Qin Family observed for a moment and no longer waited. Who? Sword shadows flashed by, and a female figure penetrated into the air, but Qin Family joined the arena again. The three of them teamed up for the first time, but they were surprisingly adept at dealing with an enemy together and cooperated very well. They are all considered experts on their own, and their fighting consciousness is naturally not bad. Although there was no prior training, this collaboration was harmonious. Qin Chimei's martial arts are particularly superior to those of Qin Yandiao. As soon as she joined, the situation in the arena suddenly became overwhelming. Sword shadows, pestle shadows, and fan shadows hit one after another. Liuyang's Silver Bone Blossom has no more offensive moves and can only be defended strictly. However, even with strict adherence, it cannot be achieved. Puzzy. Qin Chimei's sword swept over his shoulder, bringing a stream of blood and a piece of grey robe fabric flying up. Liu Yang retreated one after another, and the moves of the Silver Bone Blossom in his hand gradually became more vulnerable. I'm afraid I'll lose in just a few more breaths. Damn it, we can only use the ultimate move. Liu Yang, the true flower-picking ruler, suddenly fell and stepped on the ground. This kick seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, and the entire ground suddenly shook. The invisible yin and yang power immediately radiated around him, wrapping it into a ball and protecting it in groups. Choke, choke, choke. The weapons of Qin Chimei and 3 others, attacking above the power of yin and yang, suddenly burst out with a flurry of sparks, but could not move any further. As someone who can force me, you should be satisfied with using forbidden moves. Surrounded by the invisible yin-yang power, Liu Yang's face was now as red as blood, and even his eyes were filled with blood, presenting a terrifying and ferocious appearance. Yin-yang mixed yuan technique, break it for me. With a shout of cessation, Liu Yang, the true flower-picking ruler, suddenly burst out with a terrifying aura, unleashing the ultimate strength of yin and yang within his body. Boom! Invisible yin and yang energies, like transparent arrows, shot outwards from him as the center. Under the move of this yin-yang hybrid technique, the surrounding space is like a transparent balloon, shot through in an instant, and dense invisible waves erupt in the scene. Be careful. Lan Yujun immediately unleashed the Changfeng Sect's protective technique, Changfeng Sweeping. This protective technique, when mastered, can transform others' internal strength and minimize internal damage. Lan Yujun spun on the spot, surrounded by invisible winds and waves. Qin Chimei also used the defensive moves from the 10-7 swords of the Qin family to block the invisible yin and yang power with the blade grid. The blue-faced Mink Yang Feng, however, was regretful. His defensive moves were ordinary, and he could only distance himself with his lightness skills. However, Liu Yang's yin-yang mixed yuan technique, originally a taboo move recorded in yin-yang Gong, has astonishing power. This is a desperate move, ordinary martial artists cannot resist. Pushi, Lan Yujun's protective technique was shattered by 15 yin and yang forces. 7 of the 7 forces in his body were carried out by flying 4 or 5 zhang, hitting the wall, with 7 blood holes all around him, pouring blood and collapsing in despair. Qin Chimei was not much better either. The refined steel long sword in her hand only blocked 6 yin and yang forces, and was suddenly shattered. The 8 yin and yang forces that followed left 8 deep wounds on her body, making it difficult to fight. But Yang Feng, the blue-faced mink, suffered the most. His lightness skills were fast, but no matter how fast he was, he could not surpass the yin-yang strength. 32 yin and yang forces penetrated his body, leaving 60.4 bloody wounds. His clothes were already riddled with wounds. The overall altar protector of Luoji Escort Agency died on the spot. Peng, the blue-faced Mink Yang Feng had blood in his mouth and fell to the ground. He only took the 4th step, but still couldn't take the 5th step. It can be seen that under the taboo move, the yin and yang power emitted is incredibly fast. However, these are only 3 people at close range. The 3 disciples behind Lan Yujun were also unable to escape the killing of the yin-yang mixed yuan technique. They were supposed to follow the leader of the Blue Jade June altar to experience this trip, but the scene was about to explode. They only made the most basic move blocks, and were then penetrated by several yin and yang energies that broke through the air, and died on the spot. The wall was left with scars and holes. The several escorts in the distance were also unlucky and died in their original position, maintaining a standing posture, without even responding. With a loud sound, Lu Yang, the true flower-picking ruler who had used his forbidden move, suddenly exhausted all his yin and yang energy and could no longer support him. He sat down on the spot. This yin-yang hybrid technique, as a taboo move, not only requires a large amount of yin-yang internal strength to be used, but also damages the practitioner's potential and martial arts foundation. It is a last resort move to be used. However, Lu Yang, the true ruler of flower picking, is not afraid. Through the secret code of yin picking, he is able to make up for the potential damage to his body. However, every time he uses the yin-yang mixed yuan technique, he needs to pick and repair 100 young girls afterwards in order to make up for it and recover. You stinky woman, your moves will take my life. I will take care of you now. Lu Yang, the true flower-picking lord, had anger in his eyes as he leaned forward towards Qin Family, who was seriously injured and fell to the ground not far away. How dare you! Qin Family wriggled her body and retreated, but she was seriously injured. Her wriggling speed was no faster than Lu Yang's. Why dare I not? Lu Yang, the true ruler of flower picking, stumbled and suddenly quickened his pace. Not far away, Liu, who was admiring the trees, did not escape the penetration of the yin-yang powerful waves just now. He is located in a remote area, which is considered very lucky. Most of the yin and yang energy waves that come over him pass by, either shooting through stone benches, corridor pillars, or tree branches, and so on. A strong wave of yin and yang energy on the edge, however, passed through his left chest and penetrated his back, leaving behind a blood hole. As Li Yu approached the moment of unconsciousness, in his field of vision, he saw Lu Yangzheng, the true flower-picking lord, approaching Qin Family step by step. Bastard, it's causing me so much pain that I'm going to die. Look at me if I don't mess with you. Li Yu, lying on the ground, gritted his teeth and endured the severe pain in his left chest. He raised his right hand, which was the hidden weapon box that Qin Family had previously given him. Facing the back of the gray-robed brocade robe, with a flick of his thumb, he pressed the firing button on the hidden weapon box. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Martial Arts Master Consciousness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Martial Arts Master Consciousness. Pushi, pushi, pushi. A subtle and dense penetrating sound suddenly sounded. A silver needle shot out instantly. Not good. Lu Yang, the true lord of flower picking, noticed the sound of breaking through the air behind him, and his face immediately became very anxious. If it were normal, he might be able to rely on the internal strength of yin and yang to perform extreme dodge. However, at this moment, he was only slightly more powerful than ordinary people, and under this hidden weapon, there was no possibility of evasion. Without any accidents, all the silver needles shot by Li Yu hit Lu Yang's back, with a portion piercing through his heart. Life passed rapidly, and Lu Yang slowly turned his head to look behind him. Next to the ornamental tree, a young man who was seriously injured and threw himself on the grass was holding a small square hidden weapon box in his right hand. His eyes lit up slightly, revealing a hint of shock, and he saw clearly the small line on the hidden weapon box. 7 Ju Soul Chasing Needle. This is the top hidden weapon ranked 39th on the Jianhu hidden weapon list. How could it appear here? Accompanied by the final question, Lu Yang, the true flower-picking ruler, lost his vitality and collapsed on the grass. His head hit the ground, his eyes widened, but he was unconscious. Lu Yang, the true flower-picking ruler who once had a notorious reputation throughout Shizhou, was killed. Congratulations to the host for killing the true flower-picking Lord Lu Yang and obtaining a mysterious gift. At the moment before falling into a coma, Li Yu vaguely heard the familiar sound of the critical strike system in his mind, and then his eyes darkened, completely unconscious. I'm afraid Li Yu never dreamed that he would actually kill the true flower-picking Lord Lu Yang in the end. In the rudimentary bedroom, Li Yu lay on the bed, covered in a slightly whitewashed bedding. The eldest sister Li Xiangning and the youngest sister Li Qining are waiting on the side. In the past, Li Qining, the youngest sister, was always a mischievous ghost. However, when her elder brother was seriously injured and sent back by the escort agency, her playful childlike nature seemed to have deeply restrained, her eyes red, and she looked like she had just cried. Even at the age of 5, she seemed to understand that her elder brother was probably seriously injured this time. "Sister, will big brother die?" Li Qining opened her eyes wide and asked, her clear white eyes as clean as white jade. The medicine jar perched on the small stove emitted steam and gurgled, emitting waves of white mist like heat. The pungent herbal fragrance permeated the entire room. "No, big brother has a good fortune and is blessed by the Wutsu star in the sky. He will never die." Big sister Li Xiangning shook her head, her tone showing a hint of stubbornness, which exposed the fear in her heart. In the early morning, while she was cooking breakfast in the kitchen, Lu Yuqing and another escort escorted Li Yu back. At that time, Li Yu was placed on a rudimentary stretcher, with a lingering anger and a pale face without any trace of blood. What's even more terrifying is that there is a terrifying hole on the left chest against the shoulder, which runs through the back, with blood flowing half of the body. The wound is blurred with blood and flesh, and even exposed white ribs with bloodstains can be seen. If it weren't for these years, the older sister Li Xiangning would have been quite strong and might have fainted on the spot. 6 hours have passed since the doctor left, and there is no sign of Li Yushan awakening. Even Li Xiangning herself was afraid. If the big brother really just leaves like this, she has no idea what to do with the Qin music in the future, losing her parents, if she loses her big brother again. Big sister Li Xiangning feels like her last piece of earth has collapsed. Big girl Li Xiangning pursed her lips, tears in her eyes, her hands clasped together, silently praying. "Come, Qining, let's pray together and bless big brother to wake up earlier." Li Xiangning instructed Li Qining to close her hands. Li Qining nodded obediently. "Then learn from the sister next to you, close your eyes, and pray devoutly to the heavens." Time passed in prayer, and half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. Perhaps it was in the dark that Li Yu's fate should not be terminated, or perhaps the heavens received the prayers of the 2 orphan daughters of the Li family. Li Yu on the bed heard a faint movement. Li Yu let out a weak voice in his mouth. The voice was very quiet, but Li Xiangning could hear it clearly. She quickly stepped forward, her tearful eyes surging with infinite excitement. Big brother, ah, big brother, you finally woke up. Great, great." Big girl Li Xiangning was so excited that she even began to cry. The haze above her heart was swept away in this moment, as if there was brilliant sunshine falling down. It was already evening, yet inexplicably warm all over. "De Gua, wake up and take a look at the sound of the Qin." Yao Mei Li Qining, with her small body, unexpectedly agile, pounced onto the bed. Her big black pearl-like eyes shone brightly at Li Yu, and then she saw a familiar smile on the corner of the big pot's mouth. "Ah! Big pot, you're not dead. You're scared to death by Qining." "Nonsense, your big brother has a cat demon-possessed body with 9 lives, how could he possibly die?" Li Yu said, kicking the blanket from inside, showing off his healthy vitality. "Wow, there's nothing wrong with De Gua. Qining is going to pour you a bowl of water." Li Qining, the younger sister, jumped out of bed happily and ran out of the room to fetch water. "Is there anything to eat? I'm almost starving." Li Yu really felt hungry, unconscious for a day, bleeding a lot, and still hasn't eaten anything. It's strange not to be hungry. "Big brother, this is 100-year-old ginseng soup. You should drink a bowl first." While Li Qining was playing with Li Yu, the big girl had already brought back a bowl of ginseng soup from the kitchen. The rich aroma of ginseng filled the room, and Li Yu's fingers were moved. He needed to nourish himself too much. Where did the century-old ginseng come from? Li Yu took a sip, and the thick soup entered his stomach. The heat suddenly dissipated, and he felt comfortable. Undoubtedly, it is 100-year-old ginseng. This medicine has a strong medicinal effect. In fact, it was Li Yu who lost too much blood and his body was too weak. Ginseng, on the other hand, is a good tonic for deficiency, especially since it is a century-old ginseng plant with immediate effects. When Brother Lu brought you back, he gave it to me and said it was from the escort agency that you were supposed to take care of your body. I only cut a small section, and the rest is still in the brocade box, said Miss Li Xiangning. She consulted the doctor, but didn't throw a whole 100-year-old ginseng plant directly, which is too wasteful. With an average medicine jar capacity, it is impossible to stew the vitality of a century-old ginseng plant. Oh, I see. Li Yu nodded and continued drinking soup. Since she was sent back, the chief escort Qin Family should also have returned to the escort agency. I don't know how her injuries are. Li Yu was somewhat worried. Qin Family was too close to Lu Yang, and when using the yin-yang mixed yuan technique, the power was the greatest within the core range. At that time, Li Yu saw that Qin Family had 7 or 8 blood holes on her body, lying on the ground unable to move, almost filling the spot for the true flower-picking Lord Lu Yang. In the end, he himself shot and killed the opponent with a hidden weapon. At this moment, Li Yu's eyes suddenly lit up, recalling the feedback from the critical strike system before he fell into a coma, stating that he had received a mysterious gift. Originally, Li Yu didn't take the mysterious gift thrown by the system seriously. He gave him 10 courage, and he didn't dare to think he could kill the flower-picking lord. But things were unexpected, and by chance, the flower-picking true lord really died in his own hands. Although it was killed with the help of hidden weapons, it was ultimately oneself who fired the weapons. This mysterious gift doesn't seem to run away. Xiangning, go stew another section of century-old ginseng. I feel like I urgently need to replenish it. Li Yu found an excuse and sent away his eldest sister, Li Xiangning. Li Xiangning's figure had just left the room when Li Yu immediately became conscious and immersed in his mind, looking at the system. At first glance, it was indeed a finely crafted high-end mysterious purple brocade box, quietly floating next to the critical strike system panel, emitting a charming purple glow around it, which was quite similar to the game scene. Did you open a mysterious gift? Sensing Li Yu's conscious gaze, the system humanized the characters. After a moment of contemplation, Li Yu made a decision. Open. At the moment when the idea was settled, the purple brocade box automatically opened, and a purple light bloomed from inside the box. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained a martial arts master consciousness. This master consciousness has been removed from the influence of the master's personality, and is only a pure martial arts level master consciousness that can be immediately blessed. System character. Do you want to bless now? The consciousness of a martial arts master. Li Yu saw a blue scroll appearing inside the brocade box, which read, a copy of the consciousness of a martial arts master. At this moment, Li Yu was shocked, a shock from the depths of his soul. Martial arts master consciousness. For Li Yu, who has read a massive number of martial arts novels, the meaning represented by the 6 words of martial arts master consciousness is simply understandable. To put it broadly, it consists of 3 words. Too awesome. Those who can break through to become masters in martial arts are definitely the top among the top. Let's talk about the master figures of martial arts in the past, who are not in the realm of a master, with a clear and free-spirited demeanor and the golden will Dharma king. Which one is not a legend? Blessing immediately. Without a word, Li Yu conveyed his thoughts directly. Boom. The blue scroll dissipated directly in his sea of consciousness, transforming into a hazy blue airflow. This blue airflow is the consciousness of the martial arts master, which flew directly into the depths of Li Yu's mind and began to merge with his consciousness. A deep and vast sense of master consciousness was gradually absorbed by Li Yu. The Grand Master Realm of Nejia Fist, Master Realm of Flying Knife Skills, Journey to the End of Heaven. Master of Lightness Skills, the Grand Master Realm of Three Body Styles, Master Realm of Murder Techniques, Ting Qin Shan Martial Arts Master Consciousness, integration completed. The system now has the character. Ting Qin Shan, yes, this is Ting Qin Shan's martial arts master consciousness. Li Yu has a memory of the owner of this martial arts master consciousness. Ting Qin Shan is not a martial arts master in the traditional martial arts world, but a great martial arts master in the martial arts fantasy, Nine Cauldrons. Fortunately, I have seen the 9 tripods, otherwise I would not know this great god. Li Yu said proudly in his heart. It is truly a high-end purple brocade box, a mysterious gift opened out, truly amazing. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Li Yu's Thoughts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Li Yu's Thoughts. Shanye County is a lake in the suburbs, with blue water and few people walking around. Wow, wow. Li Yuchi, wearing only a simple gray underpants and wearing a bare upper body, was standing in the water, practicing the foundation building technique of Xingyi Fist, a three-body pose. The three-body style implies the beauty of the three talents of heaven, earth, and human beings, and is the origin and true source of the martial arts of Xingyi Fist. All the martial arts moves of Xingyi Fist are based on the three-body style. Every time he swings and stirs the lake water in front of him, Li Yu's experience of the three-body pose increases by 1 point. Indeed, it is vast and profound. These three postures have hidden mysteries that lead to martial arts in the world. Amazing, these three postures, if evaluated by the military equipment department, are at least top-notch techniques on the ground level. Li Yu's performance made him increasingly aware of the depth of the Trisolarans. Integrating Ting Qin Shan's martial arts master consciousness, today's Li Yu, in terms of Xingyi Fist, is already a master realm in terms of consciousness alone. Over the past month, he has been able to master this master realm from his initial fusion to now. Unfortunately, the Grand Master's consciousness has emerged, but physically, it is still quite far from the Grand Master's realm. Although that is the case, a month of practicing Nejia Fist has allowed Li Yu's left chest wound to heal at an astonishing speed, with the decaying flesh automatically peeling off and new flesh proliferating. Now, he has fully recovered. Nijiaquan already has the effects of health preservation and physical fitness. Ordinary people who practice for months can clearly feel the improvement of their physical functions. Not to mention Li Yu, who possesses the realm of a master, the effects he obtains far surpass those of ordinary people, and even those of ordinary practitioners of Nejia Fist. After a month of undercover training, Li Yu not only greatly improved his physical functions and healed his wounds, but also made a breakthrough in his realm from the middle stage of the original physical training realm to a complete physical training realm. Ordinary martial arts practitioners, even if they have outstanding talents, need at least half a year to break through from the middle stage of the forging stage to the completion of the forging stage. Li Yu completed it in a month. Nowadays, my qi and blood are strong, and my physical strength is long. According to reason, my physical condition can already extract internal strength. Why not? While stirring the lake with both hands, Li Yu fell into a brief moment of contemplation. One sign of stepping into the inner cultivation realm is the birth of inner strength within the body. Yes, it's because of Nejia Fist. Nejia Fist is not just a secret technique for internal strength. According to the martial arts manual, in order to cultivate internal strength, Nejia Fist must reach the third level of the master's realm. However, before that, one must first cultivate the body's muscle strength to the limit, and then improve their physical fitness to the level of steel in order to produce internal strength. This time, Li Yu found the answer from the master's consciousness and suddenly became enlightened. Although I have the master level of Nejia Fist, the time I spend practicing Nejia Fist is still too short. If I want to rely on Nejia Fist to cultivate inner strength and then break through the inner cultivation realm, with my not outstanding talent, it will probably take at least 5 years. It seems that I need to find a secret book of inner strength first to cultivate inner strength before proceeding. Li Yu immediately made a decision and first found a way to find an internal martial arts book. According to the records of the Nejia Fist manual, after reaching the level of a master, the internal strength generated by Nejia Fist cultivation can further enhance the limits of the human body and reach new heights. So what if we first cultivate the inner strength secret script? Is it possible to achieve the same goal by strengthening the body upside down? This is a brand new attempt, at least within the Great Flame Dynasty. I'm afraid no one has tried it. Li Yu's face was excited. According to the records of Nejia Fist, the physical training realm in this world was really weak, and compared to the first level of Nejia Fist, the physical limit of ordinary people seemed to be inferior. 2 hours later, Li Yu stopped practicing the three-body technique, walked out of the lake, put on the clothes on the shore, and prepared to go home. This month, due to injuries, the escort agency did not send any assistance to him, purely to let him cultivate with pay. In addition to 100-year-old ginseng, there is also 80 taels of silver. Li Yu, who had just put on his clothes, moved his ears slightly and heard some subtle movements in the forest not far away. Due to practicing Nejia Fist, Li Yu's ear hearing is no longer at his original level, and his sensitivity is now several times higher than before. Shwa shwa shwa, a subtle movement suddenly accelerates. That was the sound of quickly stomping on the withered leaves, closely following one another. A yellow and white beast figure quickly passed through the forest, approaching Li Yu at lightning speed. In just a moment, it appeared in his field of vision, a king of all beasts, a fierce tiger in the mountain, standing 1 foot long. Tiger. Li Yuning's eyebrows were guarded. In his past life, he had only seen tigers in TV dramas. But the world we are currently in is actually an ancient world. In the ancient world, there were many tigers, occupying mountains and forests, and even entering villages to prey on livestock and even humans. Due to their ferocity surpassing all beasts, they were revered as the king of all beasts. Ordinary civilians, when they see a tiger, their first reaction is to run. Even the Yamen guards in the Yamen, when they see this king of beasts, their first reaction is to take a detour. Li Yu came here to practice Nejia Fist, with the intention of being pure and undisturbed. However, he never expected that there would be a tiger hidden in the mountains and forests. Roar. Faced with the young humans on the shore, the tiger let out a hungry roar, revealing its fangs in its mouth. With a roar, the entire mountain forest seemed to tremble for a moment. Immediately after, the tiger's massive body shook and its 4 tiger paws grabbed the ground, quickly galloping up. At a distance of tens of meters, it is within reach in a blink of an eye. A tiger claw slammed towards Li Yu in the air. Kick it off. Li Yu suddenly kicked off the ground and dodged lightly. With a palm knife in his right hand, he aimed it at the back of the tiger and suddenly struck. This clever timing was just right. Hoo! It was as if the air was compressed, producing a deep vibration, and then the palm knife struck the back of the tiger. With an explosive force, the tiger's nearly 400-pound body suddenly fell short, fell to the ground, and then rolled out. Roar! The tiger flipped over and rushed towards Li Yu again, with 2 front paws striking like lightning. If it were an ordinary martial artist in the forging realm, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to avoid this close-range claw. But Li Yu, who had integrated the consciousness of a martial arts master, was fearless. With a clever lateral movement of his body, he avoided the tiger's claws, which were full of claws and teeth, and appeared on the inner side of the tiger. Take a punch from me. While giving way, Li Yu hit the tiger's side waist with a straight punch. The waist is boneless, the softest and most prone to eating and injury. Li Yu's strike hit the tiger's right waist, instantly sinking in. The tiger let out a piercing roar of pain. Not finished yet, while Li Yu withdrew his fist, he quickly lowered himself to the ground, vigorously supported his palms on the ground, and then kicked the tiger's soft abdomen with a strong upward kick from his right foot. Pang! The entire belly of the tiger was significantly sunken inward, and its nearly 400-pound body was kicked into mid-air by him, reaching a height of 6 or 7 meters. Shoo! Li Yu vigorously kicked the ground, and the force under his feet erupted. The ground at his feet cracked, but he quickly rose into mid-air and reached the top of the tiger. In mid-air, Li Yu twisted his waist vigorously, turned over, and instantly used the whip leg technique on his right leg, like a large guillotine, cutting down suddenly. Pang! 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 The person spun 3 times in mid-air, hitting the tiger's back 3 times with a triple whip. In the fall, the tiger let out a mournful roar. With a click, the sound of broken bones on the back sounded, and at the same time, the tiger's body fell heavily to the ground at a faster speed, making a loud noise. Dust filled the air, but it never stood up again. And Li Yu landed easily, with a faint hint of joy on his face. Since crossing the river, this is the first time Li Yu has played so comfortably, thoroughly, and with a refreshing heart. Li Yu was very satisfied with the recent battle. He also knew that he couldn't fight such a beautiful battle as he had only been in the middle stage of the forging stage a month ago, thanks to the fusion of martial arts master consciousness. Unfortunately, my current physical state is only a perfect physical state in this world, far from meeting the requirements of the master of Neijia boxing, otherwise it would be enough to punch. Li Yu shook his head and then bent down, grabbing the tiger's neck with one hand and lifting it at its waist with the other, effortlessly lifting the big tiger. The weight of 400 pounds is not heavy for the current Li Yu. A martial artist with a perfect physical condition can reach around 800 pounds with normal arm strength. Besides, it's Li Yu. He has been practicing Neijia fist for over a month and his current arm strength has exceeded 1,000. Carrying a big tiger, Li Yu descended the mountain path. The tiger in this mountain is full of treasures, with tiger bones, tiger meat, and tiger marrow, all of which are top-notch supplements. Li Yuka has no intention of wasting them. Practicing Neijia fist can improve physical fitness quickly and can also consume a lot. Necessary supplies cannot be cut off. End of this chapter.